Pipeline Teach-In. It's part of the Black Liberation Program. My name is Cara Pugh. I'm a public policy major with a minor in education, and I'm a sophomore here at UNC.
And I'm Villanova Bullock, and I'm a junior here. I'm also a public policy major. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out a few guidelines for tonight as we go through the event, just to set the stage for what we're going to present. So first, we want to make sure that everybody is in a serious mindset because this is a very serious topic and issue. So we want to make sure that everything we present is being taken seriously. Just as far as speaking, because this is going to be very interactive, if you find yourself just talking a lot, kind of step back a little bit so we can get everybody in and get other people's opinions. So just learn to like step up, step back a little bit. In this space in particular, we are going to have Black voices prioritized because we don't often get those spaces on campus or in our everyday lives. So Black experiences and Black voices will be prioritized during this event. And lastly, we also ask that you speak from an I perspective. We don't want to make too many generalizations. We want people to speak from their own experiences and just do it that way. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started, and Cara's going to talk about the School to Prison Pipeline and what it is.
Okay, so this is a teach-in, so we definitely want your interaction. I saw a lot of students coming in, students in the K through 12 and maybe older college students, and we're all students for life, so if you have an experience that you'd like to share or a definition, please raise your hand because I will call on you to speak. So first, what we wanted to do with everyone here, coming from different backgrounds and understandings, we wanted to see what is your first impression when you hear the phrase school to prison pipeline. So we're highlighting school, we're highlighting prison, and we're highlighting a pipeline. What phrases or adjectives or words come in your mind when you hear that? Yes?
Suspension and expulsion.
Suspension and expulsion. You can just keep, Simone will just call people.
Anybody else?
My son.
Set up.
Set up.
Yeah, set up.
Minority. Blackmail.
Title one.
Confinement. What was that one?
Confinement. One more.
Zero tolerance. Okay, awesome. Oh, yes. Abandonment. I hope I spelled that right. But. Okay. Label. And we'll take one more. There's one.
Systematic.
System. So as we can see on this board, we come from our own understandings of what the school to prison pipeline is. So we want to make sure that everyone understands we're speaking in generalities with the information we're going to give tonight, and we want you to share your information. I know there are a lot of people here that have a lot of details on this pipeline, and we're here to all learn together. So let's first begin with a working definition. So the school to prison pipeline is a system that pushes U.S. students ages K through 12 into the juvenile and criminal justice system. So if you are taking notes, you can let me know if I need to repeat something. But it's basically a system that pushes our students into prison or in a criminal situation. And so to really understand that entire definition, the first word we need to question is, what even is a system? So is there anyone in the audience that would like to give a guess? This would be a good time for a younger student to maybe guess just what is a system in general, in your own words? Yes, back there. And you can stand up too if you'd like. Okay.
Like, what's going through or something? Like a cycle?
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else want to add to that? That's a great explanation of it. So it's a cycle, but it's something that has a purpose to get something done. So the definition we have is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized scheme or method. So we know that this system is not by accident. There is a reason why it's in place, and it is doing a specific job. So thank you so much for adding that. And the first statistic we want to start off with is suspension. So on your sheet you have that black students are 4.2 times more likely to get a harsher punishment for the exact same misdemeanor. We have a national statistic that black students are 3 times more likely to be suspended for the same issue as a white student. So that means that these students are 3 times more likely to be out of school. Anyone want to guess and share their idea on what a suspension even is? Because we could be upset with this number, but what does this number really mean? What is a suspension? Any ideas? Yes?
The time that a student has to stay on campus.
Exactly. It's a mandatory leave as a form of punishment that can last anywhere from 1 day to several weeks of a student not being able to be in class and not being able to participate in extracurricular activities. So this student is completely separated from their normal schedule and idea of what a school life is. So the reason that we bring that to your attention is because these suspensions have increased over time, and they start with the term zero tolerance policies, which someone brought up. So we start with zero tolerance policies, and a zero tolerance policy, well, first they started getting very popular in 1999 after the Columbine shooting, and that occurred because, or the policies occurred because, of course, as policymakers, people wanted to make sure that something so horrific wouldn't happen again. They wanted to be sure that they could spot danger from a mile away and prevent subjectivity, but it kind of backfired because subjectivity is not being prevented when racism and bias is being implemented in the school system. So some examples of zero tolerance policies are a student brings in nail clippers to school and gets the same consequence as a student that brings in a pocket knife. A student that has cough drops or mouthwash in their backpack will get the same consequence or punishment as a student that's in possession of marijuana. And this last one just breaks my heart, that a kindergartner was expelled for giving a hug to another kindergartner because it was seen as sexual harassment according to zero tolerance policies. So, of course, in the light that we're talking about these zero tolerance policies, they are they're kind of the driving force of this system right now. So we start to talk about this idea of cyclical, and it's just like the young person in the back brought up, it's a system, but it's cyclical, it's a cycle. And where we see this cycle really beginning is going from suspensions to expulsions, and then continuing on. So who wants to guess on what an expulsion is? Yes?
Not being able to go back to a specific place permanently.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So the suspension means you can come back to your school after a certain time, and expulsion means you are pushed out of that school system, out of that county, and you have to go to another county, or you have to go to an alternative school. And we have a panelist that will be able to speak more on alternative schools as well. So if you have any questions about that, please keep them or write them down. So this is another way that students are being pushed out of this specific school. Now, how students get pushed out of the entire school system is another issue in itself. But how can we see a connection between expulsions and suspensions? What would that lead to? So we're thinking it leads to dropouts. But how would we get from an expulsion or a suspension to a dropout? And this is kind of just an opinion. Yeah. Yes.
Decreased motivation in the students.
Decreased motivation? Exactly. So just like your encouragement, how you might not feel welcome in the school any longer. Yes.
You're in class for less time, so you're probably learning less and falling behind.
Yes, learning less. What would happen if you're learning less in class? What about your grades? What will happen to your grades? Just simple numbers, they're going to go down. You're not having the same information. You have to catch up constantly. I heard some people talk about confinement. You're alone. You're sitting at home alone. What do you go back to? Yes.
I mean, even further than that, I'm thinking psychologically, your self-esteem, and even, your peers might ridicule you, like, how you got suspended for this or expelled for that. So you may not want to be around that environment anymore because you're constantly reminded what happened.
Exactly. Anyone else? Yes.
Also, to put on your record, so the teachers that have you, they know that you were expelled or suspended, they're going to treat you differently before you even come to the classroom. It even affects the type of classroom you're put into in the future.
Right. Could everyone hear her? So we're talking about not only are you suspended or expelled and you might have a bias working against you called racism, but then on top of that, your students, your classmates, and your teachers already know that you had a first offense and they're going to use that bias on you as well. I saw someone else had.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay. Anyone else? These are great comments. Okay, so thank you so much for continuing to share. So what we have is that students that are 3 times more likely, black students are 3 times more likely to be suspended, and then all suspended students, national numbers, are 3 times more likely to drop out of high school. So we have students being temporarily pushed out of the school system and then completely pushed out because of all the explanations that you just gave about how they feel and what their grades are doing. So what's the reason with these dropouts in the first place? Can anyone have an idea about what's wrong with the dropout? Well, there's nothing wrong with the dropout. What's wrong with this system that pushes our students out of the school system? Yes.
Once they're out of the system, they're like forgotten, and they're like a lost community, and there's no alternative to say, okay, you dropped out, you have to have that initiative to even pursue a GED, but you're not even there for it, like encouraged to do so. So you no longer higher rate.
Okay, we'll do right here and then in the far back, and we'll continue.
It's pushing off discipline instead of schools being responsible for disciplining students. They're pushed into the system. So instead of feeling that they might have discipline.
Exactly, so it's that next part into the system of the in being prison. Yes.
So one of the functions of the school is to socialize you in society. So when you're disengaged from that, you're further disengaged from being properly socialized into society, which also leads to dropping out.
Awesome. So one statistic that we wanted to bring to your attention is that in 1997, there was a survey done of the incarcerated population in the United States. And 68% of those surveys came back saying that those people that were in prison were dropout students. So 68% of those students were dropouts. That doesn't show a causation that dropping out leads to prison, but there is like a correlation showing that they have something in common, that being pushed out of a school system does push you into a criminal system as well. And that system is also cyclical. And even if we don't look at just this physical place of prison, there's also a mental and a symbolic imprisonment when you're pushed out of a school system. So There's no upward mobility. Some people have talked about less opportunity as well. And these are all problems, especially if they are mostly enacting on students because of the color of their skin. And it starts at one misdemeanor. It starts on one thing, and it's only different. It's only 3 times more likely to happen to a black student nationwide because of skin color. And so finally, just some things to be aware of. We have teachers in this school that are put into the school system, and Simone's going to talk about this, but we have to really be aware of all the factors that are affecting this. We have majority white teachers teaching 50% minority students in public schools. So we have a disconnect of cultural understanding and racist ideas of the world, white supremacy, acting on teachers in a classroom where it's full of black students. And there's this disconnect of an understanding and just how to treat a student with respect, how to view a student non-criminally. And so we're going to talk about that too. So we have all this here to say, like, how? You know, why did we get to this huge school-to-prison pipeline? Because, you know, there was a time where we would hope that students wouldn't be pushed into the system, but this has been enacted for a while now, and so we're going to kind of have a quick history lesson to help us understand how did we even get here. And then we will definitely have questions and panelists that are completely very sure and study this and will be able to answer more questions than we could ever. So we're going to move on to the next segment, answering how did we get here.